Hi there, and thank you for tuning in to the Social Circus, where every week we dive into a variety of topics covering social media, mindset, and how to run your business. I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. Welcome to another episode of the Social Circus. This week I've got a very special guest, my dear friend Alicia Menkveld. Now, Alicia runs a business called Savvy in Business, and she teaches women how to get paid daily by using simple strategies to sell with confidence, create repeat business, and scale in a smart, sustainable way. She has 22 years training consulting experience and has a reputation for quickly producing results and inspiring women to take brave action. She offers coaching, consulting, and training packages to help you build your bank account daily. Woo! Welcome, Alicia.
Thank you so much for having me, Sarah.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. So I should just have a little caveat and say, Alicia is a very close personal friend as well as being a client of mine. So I am very honoured to have her here today. And I'm thrilled to be talking to her about a topic that's very close to my heart, sales.
And I'm super excited to be here today, Sarah, because this is my very first podcast interview.
Yay! I love that you've admitted that, because I feel that's really brave, and sometimes we pretend that we're so experienced in everything and sometimes we're just new. So thanks for sharing. So Alicia, I know that was a beautiful bio that I just read about you, but being your friend, I wanted to kind of say, I think you have such an interesting story and journey. So tell us a little bit about how you ended up started, running your own business.
So I guess I need to start at the beginning, which is I'm originally qualified as a teacher. Although I never wanted to be a teacher, that was my mother's dream. I actually wanted to be a journalist. And I also wanted to be, in the old days, they used to be called aerostase. These days it's called cabin crew. But yes, that was my dream. I wanted to go and study to be a journalist and just, take a year or two out and be an aerostase. So that was sort of in the 90s. Unfortunately, neither of those ideas flew with my mom.
You also have a very strong mother like I do.
As she felt that none of those things are actually real jobs and that you can get paid properly for any of those sort of things. So it was her dream to always be a teacher, and therefore I was sort of, let's call it, guided / pushed into becoming a teacher. As an act of rebellion, when I finished studying, I refused to apply for any teaching jobs. But living in a small town in South Africa where everyone knows everyone, I didn't have to worry about that because my mom actually organized my first teaching job for me in the school where my brother was in year 12.
Oh, no.
And it was an all-boys school.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Let me tell you, those boys ate me for breakfast. So I was teaching English as a second language. And then as another act of rebellion, after I finished that year, I actually decided to go with my boyfriend to the UK on a 2-year working holiday visa. And that was to teach, but there I could earn in a week what I used to earn in a month in South Africa. So it was a big difference.
Wow.
My parents didn't speak to me the last month before I left, but I was determined. And I really wanted to be anything but a teacher. And so for myself, what happened is I qualified as a travel agent. I did
Well, that would have been inappropriate as well, I imagine.
Totally. But can you see the theme? There was a theme of I want to travel and do exciting things. And so there I continued my studies in marketing, advertising, and I was really prepared to do anything but teaching. And so at the end of my 2-year working holiday visa, the company that I was teaching for approached me and said that they wanted to start a franchise business in South Africa where we recruit teachers for the UK. And for me, that was like amazing. So I just jumped on that. And that was actually my first business opportunity that I then started in the year 2000, which is now ago.
That's so cool.
And then from there, I actually started training people because they needed some sort of background about what it's like to teach in schools in the UK. And I actually started going to universities and presentations there. To recruit teachers to go over to the UK.
Wow.
And after that, I joined a corporate recruitment company did that for a year or two, and then I moved willingly into the corporate company's training department. So again, all of a sudden, I was training managers, I was onboarding new recruits for them, and I finally actually figured out that I love training. I just didn't enjoy teaching kids.
So you are so seasoned as a trainer, and you've kind of focused and niched yourself into understanding and helping people with sales, which I think is very close to my heart as a marketer. And I love that you have so much experience in that. So what kind of, is that just an area of training that you seem to really enjoy, or you felt like, well, all success hinges on sales, or what sort of led you into that space?
Well, I guess that's where I was introduced. I mean, if you work in a corporate recruitment company, everything is about sales. So it's about hitting quotas for cold calling every day. It's about making connections every day. It's about submitting an amount of candidates and CVs every single day. To be very honest with you, I did not like and enjoy that aspect of sales. It was still very old boys club type sales and very hardcore. It wasn't very big on connection, building relationships, actually being authentic with the people that you speak to. It was more about maybe using some manipulative tactics to actually get a client to say yes to do business with you. And really, none of that actually sat well with me. And so when I started my small business here in Australia, I just realized that I actually have a skill that I have learned over the years, which is I'm quite good at business. I've learned a lot about business, but I also have a good training skill, and I know actually a lot about sales. And what I realized is that there's so many, and I'm going to say here, especially women, that do not know what their numbers are like. They are scared of sales. They tell me that it feels icky, it feels pushy, and they don't want to force themselves on anyone. And what I've realized is that I actually have the opportunity here to set some of the wrongs of the past right. Now, because for me, relationships is really where sales are at. Relationships, connection, and just building a bond with the person, and actually seeing if you can help them.
Oh, I love it's like music to my ears, because I came like you through corporate, where it's a very masculine environment, and sales was done in a very masculine way that I think feels very uncomfortable for us. And I would agree with you that as women, we're often really reluctant to talk about sales. We're reluctant to talk about money. And it's really hard to run a business without those two things. So I'm so excited to talk to you today about sales, because I'm always surprised when I'm coaching clients and I ask them to tell me their numbers, and we talk about things and what's your best selling product or service, that quite often people are really far away from their numbers, which is really at the starting point for sales. So if I'm sitting listening to this podcast right now and thinking, oh, I don't like sales, where's a good place to start if we want to uncover how we can do sales better in our business?
Well, I would always start with, what do I already have? So what are the products and services that I already have? What am I pricing that at? And then actually having a look at whether they are profitable to deliver or not. Now, this initially might sound very scary, but there's, very easy things that you could do to just check that. And so one of the key things would be to track actually your time when you start working on a new project. So whether you are a web developer, a graphic designer, a copywriter, a coach, a consultant, how long does things actually take you to do? And then from there, if you have a look at how many hours it takes you, for instance, to develop a logo package, and you look at what you charge, you can actually make the sum and see, am I actually being profitable on this product or service that I'm delivering? One of the other key things that I want to focus on for today would be to say, please stop focusing on getting new leads. Now, I know this is your business.
It's part of my business.
Sarah, but I feel that I'm pretty convinced that I can convince you.
I'm converted. It's okay. Can I dial us back a bit before we start on talking about who's already in our business,
Sure.
and just discuss in terms of looking at what we already have? And this is a question because pricing is something that just nobody teaches very well. And it's so
No.
interesting to hear you talk about the really simple thing of tracking your time. But a question for you, when we do activities like, for example, if we let's use the graphic designer example that you used. If it takes me 5 hours to do a logo and I charge $500, my hourly rate's $100 an hour. Really simple maths. But if I spend a lot of time, like I say I do a Zoom meeting with the client and I do lots of emails back and forward, do I put that time in there as well? Or is that's my general admin time? What are your thoughts?
For me, that's a absolutely yes.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so personally, I feel that if you have to travel to a client for a meeting, it would be travel time there and back. It would certainly be the whether that's an online meeting or an in-person meeting, the time that you spent in the meeting, the prep that you've done for the meeting. That would include little things like preparing the files for the person, uh, um, literally everything. Because the question I normally use as a rule of thumb is would I have done this activity if I wasn't working on this client project? And so
Oh.
if the answer is I'm doing this to finish a client project or to be able to work on a client project, to me, that belongs as part of the project cost of time.
Oh, that's such a good tip, Alicia, in terms of would I be doing this? Because there's a lot of things that we do in our business that we often think are what we would call non-billable hours, but if they're part of a project, they're part of your time tracking. And I think that when we are service-based businesses, our time is our money, and if we're not doing that well, it's really easy to be busy and not be making money.
Totally. And you said it, Sarah. I mean, unless you are selling something in your business, you don't actually have a business.
Yeah, and I think that's the brutal reality of sales. And I'm so thrilled to be having this conversation today because I am a passionate marketer, but all marketing, the object of every single marketing activity is to make a sale. So you and I sit side by side. So let's talk about not getting new leads, because that is something people always say to me is I don't have enough customers coming into my business. And I defer to your expertise on this every day of the week because my job in marketing is to generate leads. That's what I teach and that's what people come to me for. But the reality of it is if people did a better job working with you, they wouldn't necessarily need me.
No, I actually disagree on that. And I'll let you in on I'll quickly
Do
let
you
you
reckon we
in
need
on
both?
you totally need both. And I'll let you in on a little secret. It's because I didn't know you that I actually, in the beginning, when I started my business here, that's actually why I had to get good at sales because I had so few leads coming in that I really had to optimize and really make the most of every lead that came in. Maybe I would have never ended up here today if I had you from the beginning, because then I would have just had like a multitude of leads falling into my business every single day. But no, jokes aside, I definitely do believe that you need both.
Hmm.
You definitely do need quality leads coming in on a regular basis. And then it's also about what do you now do with all of those leads?
Yes.
And
And
that's the part where I come in.
I was going to say, because we had a chat yesterday when we were working together, and you've some really interesting statistics on what does it take to generate a new lead compared to upselling or converting an existing lead. And I can't remember what that was. I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but it's a lot more work to get new leads, isn't it?
Well, yes, it's a lot more work. The research actually shows us that it's 5 times more expensive to get a new customer than focusing on your existing customers.
Wow.
The research also shows that selling to your existing customers has a 60 to 70% success rate versus only a 5 to 20% success rates when you sell to new customers. And
Wow.
would you not want to have a 60 to 70% chance of selling something versus only 5 to 20%?
That's a
Um,
huge difference.
the shocking stat, however, is that only 18% of companies focus on keeping their customers. And
Wow.
that is sort of confirming what I'm seeing with small business owners, which is everybody is obsessed about getting new leads and nobody really cares about what happened to the leads that I got in the last 3 months or the last 6 months or the last year.
That's so true, and it's really tempting, particularly with things like advertising, which can make your cost per acquisition on a lead quite low, to be really focused in on that and not actually doing a good job of nurturing, converting people who've already come into your business. So, from your perspective, because I guess everyone always tunes in for some little simple tips. If I've got a nice business and I'm nice and busy, but I think I need new leads, but really I've done nothing to look at my existing customers, what's a good place to start with that?
Oh, follow up.
No one wants to do that.
Nobody wants to do that. uh, but I actually call it a leaky business bucket. And you need to see, where are you losing traffic, which is the part that you obviously help people with. But where are you losing leads, and where are you losing sales, and where are you losing repeat business in your business? So if you can imagine a bucket holding water, but the bucket is, full of holes, that is the leaky business bucket concept. So you need to focus on those 4 areas. And one of the easiest areas that people do not want to do, as you just mentioned, is follow up. And there's a saying, fortune is in the follow up. And honestly, it truly is. So for the listeners out there, have a quick think for yourself. And when was the last time that you followed up with everyone that made an inquiry to your business in, let's say, the last 6 months?
Ooh.
And so when we
There'd be some awkward pauses for our listeners, I think.
And so when I say everybody that made an inquiry, that could be via your website, it could be via direct messages in social media, it could be from you attending a networking event, having spoken to someone, it could be somebody, a friend that referred someone to you, or somebody that just sent you an email. If you have to go back today and you have to think about, where did I, what happened to all the leads that came in, let's say from January this year until today? That's 8 months. How many times did you actually follow up with those?
Oh, that's a really tough question, and something that I think we'd feel quite awkward actually answering, because I know even in my business, I'm not fabulous at that. So such a juicy, juicy tip. And what are some other thoughts on how I can do a better job of taking care of those leads?
Well, the second question would be, how are you qualifying your leads, if at all? So it's one thing to get a whole bunch of leads into your business. It's a completely different thing to actually work with the people that light us up and that allows us to do our best work. And so do you have a couple of questions that you normally ask people um, before you decide that you actually want to work with them? And so these could be, yes, it could certainly be things like budget that could be included in that. It could be, are you the final decision maker, or do you need to discuss this with a spouse before you can maybe invest in a coaching package? It's also little things like, how important is it for this person to engage you right now? So, is this a nice to have for your business at the moment, or is it actually a necessity to have in your business right now? I've got a heap of questions that you could ask more, to your client.
I have to say, Alicia, you make it sound so easy. And I know I'm sitting here listening to you talk going, oh, so good, so good. And in my heart, I'm like, oh, I'm so scared. And I think the thing is that it feels terrifying to pick up a phone, and it feels really scary to kind of do that kind of first contact, and that we often call it cold calling. And in truth, if someone's made an inquiry, it's not really, is it?
Oh no. I mean, I would like to put even a bet on it. That's how certain I am of it, because I work with small business owners every single day. That 9 times, I would actually say 9.5 times out of 10, it's never a cold lead. So people get this idea that sales is sleazy and pushy and icky. All of those ideas come from the fact that we do get spam callers calling us out of the blue in the middle of a day. We don't know them from a bar of soap, and they are trying to sell us something. But if you really think about your business right now today, how many times have you ever called a stranger and tried to sell them something? The answer is probably never.
I was thinking probably never.
Probably never. And that's why I want to change this perception. And for me, it's all about the connection. It's about the conversation that I'm having with the person. And really, for me, sales is about really listening. It's about asking good questions and then listening to what the other person is saying. And me personally, I would never force any sort of solution onto you. For me, I try and position myself as a trusted advisor. And when I go into that conversation, it's all about finding out what your needs are. What do you need? And if I happen to have something, that can potentially help you, I will get your permission to tell you about it. But if I'm not the right person, then I'm totally open to let you go and to actually, recommend you or refer you to other people that would be a better fit for you. And I guess once we make that shift in our heads, that we're only having a conversation, we're asking questions, we're really listening to the other person to try and understand them instead of trying to sell them something, I guess that's when everything changes.
Oh, and I do have to say, Alicia, you make it sound so easy. And you make me think, I can do that. And then in my heart, I'm still a little bit terrified. But I do like your change in perception from I don't actually have to be selling and I can ring up and have a conversation. And I have to say, I'm such a confident person and I dread it. If someone rings and says, I wanted to ask you a question, I actually dread ringing them back. So I'm like, they're going to ask me a question about working with me. That's really bad, isn't it?
I think it's human. I guess the key thing here is that we are in business to try and help people. I mean, you've spoken to many business owners yourselves. Why do we go into business? We want to make an impact. We want to earn our own money. We want to be there for our families. And we want to help people. That's normally, I would say, the top 4 reasons. Is there anything else that comes to mind for you?
No, they're all great reasons.
Yeah, and that's normally what people say. But
yes.
If you say that you want to help people, but you refuse to have a conversation with someone, then how is that helping?
Oh, such good reframes, such good reframes. Oh, look, Alicia, I think you and I could talk all day, and I'm kind of tempted to get you on just to talk about pricing because I think it's such an important topic, and I've loved chatting with you today. And I wanted to wrap up and just say thank you so much for sharing your wisdom so generously, and for making us all think about sales and reframing how we address it, because it is so important in our business. And I feel like as women and female entrepreneurs, it's really important that we step out of the shadows and own and claim what's important to our business.
I totally agree. Thank you so much for having me today. And if I can leave you with one thing, it's really about next time you want to follow up with somebody, just think about it as literally just having a conversation with the person, checking in with them. Hi, how are you? What are you currently working on? Is there anything I can help you with? But really going in with the intention of helping and not selling.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much. So to all my listeners out there, in the show notes will be how you can get in touch with Alicia. She does have a couple of amazing free ebooks that I'll put the links into the show notes as well, so you can help start those really great conversations. And final thanks again to Alicia, and thank you for tuning in to the Social Circus again, and I'll catch you the same time next week.
Thanks so much for having me, Sarah.
Thanks
Alicia. So much for tuning in to the Social Circus. As your host, Sarah Thompson, I am thrilled that you've chosen to spend your time hanging out with me. I would be so grateful if you could spare an extra moment to go and leave me a review on your favorite podcasting platform. And if you even felt more excited, you could share my podcast with your friends who you think would get great value from it. Thanks so much again for tuning in.